Hello, everyone. This is Buddha Zen Wisdom, and we are here to accompany you every day. Today, we're going to talk about the hardships of life. From the moment we are born, challenges begin. Some say that as we grow older, life becomes increasingly difficult. Indeed, to enjoy a comfortable and peaceful old age, many objective conditions must be met. Whether your life will be bleak or bright doesn't need to wait until you're elderly to find out. By the time we reach the age of 60, the signs are already beginning to show. Let me share some examples from around us. Some people, when they were young, didn't plan for the future. They lived aimlessly, overextending their health and resources, piling up burdens for their later years. How can such a life not be exhausting in their remaining years? The kind of old age we hope for is one of peace and tranquility. Even if we occasionally feel lonely, it's a unique kind of leisure, a time to reflect on our lives and pursue unfulfilled dreams. At 60, people begin to enjoy retirement. At first, the sudden free time might feel unsettling, but there's no need for that. After a lifetime of busyness, it's time to enjoy some personal time. Brew a pot of tea, hold a book, or meet up with a few friends. These are all good ways to spend your days. Retirement is the beginning of another phase of life. For some, it's a beautiful and leisurely time, but for others, it can be the start of a downward spiral. At 60, whether you begin a relaxed life or fall into unavoidable suffering, whether your later years will be dark or bright, there are already signs. It often depends on the following 3 points. 1. Physical health and illness. Whether young or old, everyone hopes to stay healthy. Especially in recent years, we've come to understand that without good health, everything else is meaningless. Of course, it's normal to have minor ailments, but once serious illnesses strike, they can completely disrupt or even overturn our lives. Many elderly people suffer from unavoidable illnesses, and some, even at a relatively young age, lose the ability to care for themselves. This is the most painful aspect of old age. These illnesses prevent us from enjoying a peaceful life, instead keeping us immersed in worry and anxiety about the future. As the saying goes, a long illness makes even a filial child weary. Even if your children are dutiful, becoming a burden to others can strain family harmony. For example, take Mr. Thompson, a 65-year-old retiree. He was once an active and independent man, but after a stroke, he became partially paralyzed. Now, he relies on his daughter, Emily, for daily care. Emily loves her father dearly, but the constant caregiving has taken a toll on her own health and marriage. Mr. Thompson often feels guilty, knowing he's become a burden, but there's little he can do. This is a harsh reality for many elderly people who face chronic illnesses. On the other hand, some elderly people are still in decent health, but their lifelong partner passes away unexpectedly. They say, young couples grow old together as companions. The loss of a partner who knows all your habits is a heavy blow to your later years. It not only shatters your plans for old age, but can also leave you deeply immersed in grief, making life feel dark and hopeless. 2. Financial struggles. Financial stability is another critical factor in determining the quality of life in old age. Take Mr. Johnson, for example. He's 63 and has been retired for 3 years. His wife, Mrs. Johnson, is 60 and has been retired for 10 years. From the day they retired, they started working part-time jobs. They haven't taken a single day off because their pensions are meager and they still have debts from their son's wedding. Their son, now 40, finally got married at 32. He's a quiet, introverted man who struggled academically as a child and hasn't been very successful in his career. His income barely covers his own expenses. Watching their son grow older without settling down, the Johnsons grew anxious. They begged friends and relatives to introduce him to potential partners. After relentless efforts, their son finally found a girlfriend, but she insisted on a fully paid house before agreeing to marry him. To make this happen, the Johnsons tightened their belts. Even without spending a penny, they could barely save anything. Their combined pension is only $2,000 a month, which is nowhere near enough to buy a house. To save as much as possible, they started working as cleaners right after retirement. Though the work is hard and dirty, they persisted because it pays better. They took on significant debt to buy their son a house and fund his wedding. Over the years, they've only taken one day off, the day of their son's wedding. Even during holidays, they've worked because holiday pay is higher. In 5 years, they hope to pay off their debts. After that, they plan to work for 2 more years to save some retirement money before finally resting. Their son and daughter-in-law aren't capable of supporting them, so they have no choice but to rely on themselves. Sometimes Mr. Johnson reflects on how hard they've worked their entire lives, only to continue laboring in retirement. He feels it's unfair. If their pensions were higher, they wouldn't need to work so hard. Their only wish now is to pay off their debts and enjoy a few peaceful years of retirement. That will be the happiest time of their lives. 3. Caring for both the old and the young. Many people think retirement is the best time of life. Your children are grown. You don't have to worry about work, and you can simply enjoy life. Wake up naturally, go grocery shopping with friends, and dance in the square at night. Sounds perfect, right? But most people are mistaken. Life for a 60-year-old retiree isn't always so easy. Take Mrs. Emily, for example. She retired at 60 and enjoyed a brief period of leisure. But soon, her elderly mother fell ill and needed constant care. Emily had to tend to her bedridden mother, handling all her daily needs. Despite her own age, she had to wake up early and stay up late, leaving no time for herself. 2 years later, her grandson was born. Now, she's caring for both her mother and her infant grandson while navigating a tricky relationship with her daughter-in-law. At 60, she's living like she's in her 30s again. Emily thought retirement would bring peace, but instead, her hardships have just begun. She's more exhausted now than she was in her youth. Then there's Mr. Robert, 58, who has a pension but struggles because his adult son is financially dependent on him. Robert's son, an only child, was spoiled growing up and is turned into what some might call a man-child. Though married with a child, he's irresponsible and neglects his own family. Now that Robert is retired, his son and daughter-in-law have left their child with him while they go off to work. To make matters worse, they don't earn much and still rely on Robert's pension, taking half of it and complaining it's not enough. Robert is frustrated but feels he has no choice. As a parent, he can only endure. On top of caring for his grandson, he also has an 80-year-old mother who's becoming increasingly difficult to manage. She started acting like a child, throwing tantrums and demanding constant attention. Robert feels overwhelmed, caught between caring for his aging mother and his dependent son. As the saying goes, parenting is a lifelong journey. In the first half, parents raise their children. In the second half, children care for their aging parents. It's a long farewell and a cycle of love. Even with a pension, Robert can't escape the stress of caring for both his elderly mother and his irresponsible son. Parents often give endlessly, sometimes depriving their children the chance to grow. So, it's no surprise that some children become dependent adults, relying on their parents for life. If you have the means in your later years, life can be bright. But if you're unable to care for your parents or manage your children's needs, it can be a heavy burden. Additional factors that affect life in old age. In addition to these challenges, there are other factors that can shorten life expectancy. Lack of sleep. Studies show that people who sleep less than 6 hours a night have a 41% higher risk of cancer, with women facing a 53% higher risk. Poor hygiene. Neglecting hygiene can reduce life expectancy by 4 years due to increased exposure to bacteria and viruses. Smoking. Long-term smoking can shorten life by 5 years, damaging not only your health but also affecting those around you. Excessive salt intake. Eating too much salt can reduce life expectancy by 6 years, as it harms the kidneys and increases the risk of high blood pressure. Chronic anger. Frequent anger and stress can reduce life expectancy by 7 years, increasing the risk of chronic illnesses like hypertension and depression. Sedentary lifestyle. Sitting for long periods can reduce life expectancy by 10 years, as it increases the risk of diseases like arthritis and heart conditions. Poor dental hygiene. Not brushing your teeth can reduce life expectancy by 13 years, as it leads to oral and systemic health issues. These 7 bad habits are major contributors to a shorter life. Of course, there are other factors like irregular eating, skipping breakfast, and obesity that can also shorten lifespan. Common health myths to avoid. On the flip side, there are some widely believed health myths that can actually harm you. 1. Drinking too much water. While overhydration can be dangerous, most people don't drink enough. For healthy individuals, drinking more water helps with metabolism and doesn't burden the kidneys. 2. Eating only plain food. A diet lacking variety can lead to nutritional deficiencies and even fatty liver disease. A balanced diet with moderate amounts of meat, vegetables, and grains is essential. 3. Rely on porridge for health. While porridge can be gentle on the stomach, it's not suitable for everyone, especially those with certain stomach conditions. 4. Skipping dinner. Avoiding dinner to lose weight can backfire, as it slows metabolism and increases the risk of stomach issues. Conclusion. In conclusion, maintaining health is a complex task that requires a balanced diet, proper sleep, and regular physical activity. Avoiding these common misconceptions is key to a long and healthy life. That's all for today's sharing. Remember, you're never alone here at Buddha Zen Wisdom. We're here to walk this journey with you every step of the way.